On today's episode of IoT Innovation, we'll be providing an update on the Allseen Alliance and all the announcements they made at the 2016 CES program in Las Vegas. But first, a few words from our sponsors, Telecom Careers and Enritsu.
This episode of IoT Innovation is sponsored by Enritsu.
Telecom Careers, the #1 global telecom and wireless job board. telecomcareers.com.
Welcome to IoT Innovation. Today's guest is Philip Desautel, who's Director of IoT with the Linux Foundation. Philip, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I know you're probably dog-tired after being at CES and recovering from an extremely warm holiday season, but we do want to talk about the CES announcements, but first I'd like to talk a little bit about the Allseen Alliance and AllJoyn technology. So would you mind maybe giving us a quick overview of the Allseen Alliance and AllJoyn technology?
Sure, glad to. The Allseen Alliance is a member consortium, and it's a group of members that have come together to solve one real simple problem: letting billions and billions of things work together, talk together, and interoperate, which is really, at the end of it, the problem underlying this promise of the IoT, right? We always talk about the IoT and say, gee, I want IoT, but what is it? It's things that work together. And it sounds really simple. I mean, we have that on our mobile devices. We have that on the web. And we want that with all of the other things around us. The Alliance is a group of people who really got together and were really frustrated that there were so many different ways to do that, and that most of the products you would buy that were connected weren't connected together. The Alliance right now is a little over 200 members, and those 200 members have built an open source software framework called AllJoyn. AllJoyn is both the technology and the name of the project. The AllJoyn technology is software, open source software, that runs on connected devices, in apps and in services, and allows those things to talk to each other, to interact, and to work together. And it's open source, it's free. Come on, download it.
Tell me about your role as Senior Director of IoT, and talk about the relationship between the Allseen Alliance and the Linux Foundation.
Yeah, this is really, to me, one of the really magic things that the Linux Foundation does. It's one thing to say, I'm going to open source software. Here's some code I wrote, everybody can use it. It's another thing to build and nurture a community around that software, many different and disparate groups, bring them together, get them to collaborate, and then help them continue to advance their goal and their mission. The Linux Foundation does this through one of the many collaborative projects of the Linux Foundation. And I and my team that work on Allseen are all employees of the Linux Foundation. That way the Allseen Alliance has a level of independence in the people that are managing the project for them. The members are the ones who are contributing the code and doing all of the on the ground work. And I and my team are really here to be the administrators of the project and to help the members succeed in their mission.
Well, you mentioned interoperability and just making sure all these 25 to 50 billion things actually work together. But I put up a slide here. Maybe you could talk more specifically about the specific problems that AllJoyn solves.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about it, I take connected thing 1, connected thing 2, put them down in my home. Maybe I have an app to go along with that. Connected thing 1 and connected thing 2 want to find each other. So the first thing they have to do after they get on my network is to discover each other. And then they have to describe each other. And this describe is important, because what we want is smart connected products that tell us about themselves as we see them. Oh, I see that thing over there. What is it? Oh, it tells me it's a light, and it tells me what capabilities it has. By doing that, I don't have to know what everything is. I just have to be able to ask it, what do you support? And what do you support might be different depending on my credentials. If I'm the service technician, the washing machine might tell me about different interfaces and capabilities than if I'm the homeowner or if I'm the firmware update server. And in that way, identifying the services is really an important part. After you've got that, after I know what things are near me and what they do. What I want to do is have a common way to be able to control them. And this is, this control interface becomes really important. If you think about it, most things can be abstracted away. I also want to be able to manage them. And this is really, I call it the troika of IoT. After you have a connected device, you have three things that you really care about. You care about user provisioning. That's not part of AllJoyn. That's part of building good apps and servicing apps. You care about service provisioning. How do I deliver the right services to the right user? And finally, around device provisioning. And this device provisioning involves not only waking up and connecting a device, but managing a device, providing the service and support that you need for that device if there's a problem, and the firmware and updates to that device. And so in that way, management is really a fundamental piece, and that's something that we've been working really hard on because it's one of those things that everybody needs and you want it to work in a common way. Interoperability is just that's the life for it. It's the oxygen of this project. Things need to work together.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited when I get yet another device. I pop it down. I use an app called Higgins from this great little company called Tuballs, and Higgins is kind of a way to build stories with connected things. You screw in a new light bulb, you plug in a new device, and boom, it just shows up in Higgins, and you can start using it. And that's magic, because then you can tell it, okay, I want these two things to work in this way. Adapt is really an important piece or problem we see. I come into the house, I've got a tablet, it's got my app on it. I walk out of the house, my app goes away. But I don't want my house to stop working. So how does the house, a controller or some smart device in the house know how to share control with say, two different control devices? Or, maybe my car is part of that system, and when it's at the house, it does some things, and when it's away from the house, it connects in a different way. The spanning is a really important piece of the puzzle, especially with the emergence of some really cool new things like Thread and ULE, right? We get these incredibly interesting technologies out there that solve problems. Thread with mesh network and low power, ULE that bridges from the telecom world into the smart connected product world. AllJoyn doesn't care about the transports for these that devices talk on. It's not tied to them. It's not fixed on a specific transport, say Wi-Fi or 802.15.4. It will work with any of them. And so in that way, AllJoyn creates a mesh of stars over whatever transports you have to let you choose the right technologies and the right products to meet your needs.
Yeah, you mentioned mesh of stars, and so I'm going to pop down to that particular slide. How about that? So that's a great segue. So we'll talk about, tell me about what this really means to the end user and your members.
Well, so to the end user, it's really simple. And I always describe the end user as my dad, right? My dad doesn't care whether it's Wi-Fi or Thread or ULE. He's going to go to the store. He's going to, maybe he's going to go to Lowe's. He's going to see a really interesting product. Maybe it's a smart doorbell, and he's going to buy that product, put it at his house. And he wants that product to work with all of the other things he's already got at his house. Does he have an LG TV? Yeah, well, great. If somebody rings the doorbell can send an AllJoyn notification. The TV can just pop up the message. The doorbell might be Bluetooth. The TV, it might be Ethernet. As long as there's a way for all of those technical protocols underneath to connect, and that's kind of what the gateway in that picture shows, right? Physically bonding of transports. From the user, I don't want to think about that because, my dad doesn't care what transport it is. He cares that the connected doorbell and the TV work the way he expects them to deliver, that great experience he wants. He wants to know when somebody's at the front door. That's all. That's
right. How about security? How do you keep this secure?
Yeah, security is one of those, it's like a Matryoshka doll. It's perfect timing for Christmas, right? It's like the security Matryoshka doll. At the inside, the littlest doll it is message-based security for us.
Yeah.
We believe that it's fundamental that every sender and every receiver can encrypt their messages between, back and forth. And in that way, it doesn't matter what transport you have and whether the transport supports the right type of security, whatever that means. And if the security models are the same across all the transports you're using, you don't have to worry about that. Your message is encrypted from sender to receiver and in a way that runs on really small devices and really big devices. That covers the basic. Can I have a secure connection? Once I go above that, we have a security model we call Security 2.0. I call it UGRT. Users, groups, roles, relationships, and things.
UGRT. You heard it here, right?
UGRT is everywhere. It's in your computer. It's on your mobile device. Everywhere that has a smart development environment has a model for how users and things interact. There's permissions on them, and groups of users and things can have permissions on groups of users and things. It's a standard model. That's the second layer in AllJoyn. The third layer, which is beyond AllJoyn, right, and that's at the app layer, is how you make all of that work. The picture that you have up here is great in that I guess you're jumping back.
Go back? I can go back to the other one. That's easy. I just slide down here to the AllJoyn topology.
Yeah, I mean, what this is trying to show, and this kind of goes into the users don't care about the technology underneath. They want it to work.
Yep.
This is what they really show use cases. And the use cases are pretty straightforward. You know, I've got coffee cooking in the kitchen. I'm sitting up on the deck. It's a really nice day. You know, in our case, you know, it's been a balmy winter so far. So maybe I'm sitting out on the deck enjoying the sun.
Yep.
The coffee maker's done. I'd love it to be able to send out a message that says the coffee's done, but I don't want to have to tell it, oh, send that message to here. I happen to have some speakers on upstairs. They're AllJoyn enabled speakers. Those speakers should be able to play the message because I've set them up to just say, play the messages that are in my house when you're on. And it's those use cases that users are going to create that we think are really important. You don't want to constrict the model in a way that causes users to have to only follow certain rules. You want users to be able to be tinkerers, right, in their world. And what this shows is, you know, the other side of what I call the massive IoT problem. Anybody who's got connected devices has that IoT problem today, and it's an app for everything. You have an app for this and an app for that. You want to turn the light bulb on, you start the app. You want to switch the plug on, you do this. You want to look at the appliance, you do that. It's really painful. And, you know, no regular person is going to go use IFTTT to connect one cloud service to another cloud service and then have yet another app or a web page that they have to open. So I want to watch TV, so I'm going to run a cloud service that's going to talk to two other cloud services that's going to turn on the TV. No, that isn't what people want. People want to push a button on the wall and have things happen. They want to turn on the TV and have the TV to tell the lights to set up a certain way. We want things to interact. And we really want, at the end of the day, kind of this picture on the right of the mobile device is kind of this nirvana of, I want apps that do the things I want them to do, just like they do on my mobile device. My mobile device is full of APIs, and apps give me great services on top of that. My home, my office, my business could be full of APIs, and my apps could do the same thing, give me great functionality on top of that.
Got it. Well, you have, on your website, you talk about a framework, and I want to jump up here to this other slide and just give us, if you don't mind, give us an overview of the AllSeen and AllJoyn high-level architecture.
Yeah. So AllJoyn's do I have you back?
Yep, I'm here.
I lost you for a second. AllJoyn is AllJoyn is a layer cake. And if you think about down on let's make it a device, but we could be talking about an app too. You have an operating system, maybe it's a real-time operating system, maybe it's a high-level operating system. You've got all of the transport, networking, communication stuff built into that device. That's all the things of firmware and device engineers. So what we really have above that is where AllJoyn starts. Once you have that, you have AllJoyn Core. AllJoyn Core is the protocol. It's like saying HTTP, right? It's a fundamental protocol. And that's what does the discovery and the connection and all of the security pieces that allow devices to talk to each other. Above that, you have these services. And if you think of, now that I can communicate, I want to do some interesting things. So, you know, I want to onboard, that is, get a device onto a network. I want a control panel, kind of the switches and dials of a device. I want time service, or I want notifications, machine to human set messaging. And so those are base services, and then we have higher level services. And these higher level services are things like lighting, because if you think about it, all the different lights in the world all have kind of some fundamental elements underneath, and it'd be really nice to understand those fundamental elements. You can allow them to be extended, but you'd like to understand those so that when you see something and it says, hey, I'm lighting, you know what to do with it. In the same way, we have home appliances as a service framework that really talks about all of the big things. And we've got some efforts going on right now around power and resources, so energy management, water management, gas management, so that devices can start to do interesting things like negotiate with each other. The wine fridge and the washing machine both need a run. Which one gets to run first if we're running on PV and we've got a limited amount of power? Or which one, can the wine go up a couple of degrees while I run the washer? Probably. But maybe not if it's a really hot day and I don't want my wine to go bad. And so they need to have a way to have that discussion. That's another type of service framework. Home control is about, it's actually got a new name now, but home control is all about all of those things, switches, actuators, controls that we see that aren't really appliances or lighting. They're all of the other things that are hidden in our world. And so in this way, the service frameworks give us a standard way of thinking about talking, the above the language, but kind of the conversational framework. And then we have two other pieces. We have the router, and in the mesh of stars, the router is the thing that finds the little pieces and connects all the connections together. Just like on the internet, we have routers that connect up nodes on the internet. In AllJoyn, we have routers that connect up all of the devices in a home or an office. And then a gateway. The gateway is really important because AllJoyn is all about the local network. And what the gateway does is connects the local network to some other network. That might be your phone remotely. That might be two buildings, maybe a vacation home and your regular home. It might be different locations in an office. But the gateway is how we provide that remote access and that remote management.
Well, I got a couple questions. Walk me through the go-to-market here and how other manufacturers are adopting and integrating these layers and frameworks and core apps into their products.
Yeah, it's been fun. This is this for me is one of the best parts of my job, is working with all of these awesome product companies and really seeing how they're going to market. A lot of the companies, if you look through the member list, you'll see a lot of those companies were early innovators, and they did what I'd call, generation 1 and generation 2 of IoT. Generation 1 were smart remote controls, if you will. Right. Generation 2 added in cloud and cloud APIs so you could integrate, your cloud connected device with somebody else's cloud connected device. That was that second generation. And now they're on to this third generation that they've seen how that works. They've seen what works for customers and what doesn't. And what they're doing now is using AllJoyn to give their devices a common language, because the companies that are implementing AllJoyn see more value in their devices working together with other devices than in trying to build a proprietary platform that is theirs and theirs alone. And so what AllJoyn does, Jim Zemlin, who's the head of the Linux Foundation, gives a great talk on open source software. AllJoyn gives you 80% of the pieces you need to create an IoT device. It gives you all of the stuff above the operating system and all of the stuff just below the logic of your device. And so it gives you a bootstrap. And AllJoyn is an open source software framework that's been built to be production ready. The AllJoyn that you go up to our website and download is the AllJoyn that's in LG TVs. It's the AllJoyn that's in Windows 10. It's in the AllJoyn that's in LifeX light bulbs. And these are high production items, right? And so what you asked what the go-to-market is. The go-to-market is really, now that you've decided you're going to build an open connected device, you need to put an open connected framework on there. You get AllJoyn. You either add it into your app or you add it into the actual device, usually both, because you have an app to go with your device. And then you start putting the finishing touches on what's the application logic or what's the product logic that I need on top of that. Because you don't have to worry about that whole communications protocol. It's all there for you.
Got it. Well, at RCR, we like to think of the industrial IoT is really, you've got certainly the wearables market, but then you move into the connected home, smart city, connected car, and other areas. We've talked a lot about AllJoyn in the connected home environment, but do you see a roadmap for this moving beyond the connected home into other industrial type applications or smart factories, smart city type programs?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the last one first. I'm going to come back to this resource management project we have going.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, it's great to say smart city, but a smart city requires a lot of little smart homes. It requires smart traffic lights and smart cars, but it also, take New York City. There's a lot of people living in a lot of apartment buildings and a lot of homes there. And in those homes are a lot of devices. And what you really want is those devices to act in a way that can interact with that smart city. And, we originally called the project Power, but we soon advanced that to be resource management. Because when you think about it, I have water, I have gas, I have electricity, I have waste. And in a smart city, I need to manage all of those. And having devices that can talk among themselves with a resource provider to say, hey, I need more energy, or I'm going to use more gas, or I'm going to deliver some wastewater from this washing machine as part of my cycle. And having, whether that's in an apartment building, maybe it starts with the apartment building having a response first saying, gee, now's not a good time to do wash because 20 of your neighbors are doing wash. Can you wait 10 minutes? Right? And that's all, of course, automatic, right? Maybe you just pushing a button that says, yeah, I can wait. But that's the connection to smart city. The smart city can't be smart unless all of the things in it are connected and smart. And so you need some way to do that. And that's where we see this bridge. The home also has to be smart within itself before it can get to a smart building, before the smart building can talk to a smart neighborhood. There's picogrids and microgrids and macrogrids. So I think the smart city play is really here. And at the All Seen Alliance Summit that happened a couple of months ago, the team from Qualcomm, Kiva Allgood, who heads up the smart cities effort at Qualcomm, announced some efforts they have been working on to extend the AllJoyn framework capabilities to speak to a lot of those systems that fit into smart cities, specifically around MQTT, to add that extra capability in. So that side's, to me, a no-brainer. On the factory side, there's no reason it can't be used there. The examples I use are all home because if you look at the first set of members we had, it takes a year to a year and a half to get a product to market, right, from start to finish. If you look at the first set of members we had, there were consumer electronics and home goods companies, white goods manufacturers and the like, and they're the first ones bringing products to market. So they're the ones I can point to and talk to. But if you look at, say, Microsoft's efforts around AllJoyn, Microsoft's created something called the Device System Bridge, which is a way to take proprietary protocols and connect them to AllJoyn and open up closed systems. One of the first proprietary protocols they opened up was BACnet, which is really used in industrial settings for building automation and control. And so in that way, we're rapidly heading there. And some of the things we'll talk about in a bit about member releases are definitely going to, light the way towards much more beyond just the consumer space.
Got it. Well, let's, I want to stop sharing the screen and let's jump into CES and some of the big announcements that All Seen offered at CES this year.
Yeah, the two really interesting sides of the announcement space. I'm going to start with products first because that's what everybody wants to know about.
Yep.
The fundamental challenge in all of this is products that work together. Knowing that, you don't go to the hardware store and buy a 1/2-inch coarse bolt, bring it home and say, darn, it doesn't fit because this isn't the right 1/2 inch, right? We know if it's 1/2-inch coarse, going to bring it home, it's going to work. In the same way, I'd hope that we could show up to the store and buy a smart connected product, see the little logo on it, take that product, bring it home, connect it up, and it's going to work. We see that with HDMI, we see that with Wi-Fi, and I want to see that with all the other things in my home.
Yep.
And so the first big announcement was around certified products. We have a program called AllJoyn Certified. AllJoyn Certified puts products through a rigorous third-party test lab test suite that checks two things. One, have you implemented AllJoyn correctly? So you downloaded the software, you put it in your product. Did you get all the pieces and parts right? That's a technical protocol perspective on compliance. But then beyond that, that product is tested against a bunch of other products. in a very rigorous way through a standard set of tests that are publicly available. Somebody can go up to the website and look at those tests. Those tests ensure that product A from company A is going to work with product B from company B in the way you expect, and that ensures interoperability. And so the first big thing we announced is really a big wave of smart connected products. Things like LifeX light bulbs. All of their light bulbs are AllJoyn enabled, but more importantly, AllJoyn certified, which is great. And as you see other products coming into market like Lowe's Iris that speaks AllJoyn and Windows 10 that speaks AllJoyn, this means you're going to really be sure that these products are going to work together in a really interesting way. The other part of that puzzle, and great music systems like Mosaic, a company I love, they make these beautiful sound systems. They're internet-enabled sound systems. It's AllJoyn enabled. It's got AllJoyn controls in it. It's really great. LG TVs. The other area that we're starting to see come out and pop out in the certification space is apps. And so a company called Tubal's released an app called Higgins. Mm-hmm. And this app, if you think about this app, Higgins, it is about creating stories. If somebody pushes the doorbell, then play this message on my TV. Or, in the case of me, I work at home. If somebody pushes the doorbell, blink the light on my desk, because I probably don't want to interrupt the phone call that I'm on. I want to know that somebody's there so I can at least wave through the door. Those stories are really fundamental. And so Tubal's Higgins app coming out as a certified app really starts to set the stage for appification, which is the other side of this IoT, right? The smart connected devices are one thing, but it's the app layer on top of that that's going to give us those incredible use cases. And we've also got air purifiers and humidifiers, an incredible set of air conditioners from LG, all AllJoyn certified. So that's really the first big wave. The second is a continued movement in our growth. We've had this just ongoing double-digit growth of members every month. And at CES, we've got some really interesting segments of members being released. We've got much in your question of, do I see this moving towards a more commercial space? Hager Group, which is a major provider of electrical infrastructure in Europe, is now a member, as well as Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls is a company that does building controls, factory controls in 150 different countries. And, so having them come in as a member and Hager as a member, Kitty is another one. We think of Kitty as smoke alarms and fire extinguishers, but also in bigger infrastructure systems for bigger buildings. They're all in this wave of, beyond just basic product companies. We have another semiconductor company in the alliance now, NXP, which is really exciting. Last year at CES, they showed a prototype of Freescale processor running Thread with AllJoyn on top of it, showing how it all works together with multiple transports. This year, they just continued with all kinds of great additional announcements. And a lot of platform companies coming in. Again, coming back to this notion of the smart connected device, the app, and then how do you glue it all together? User provisioning, service provisioning, device provisioning. We've got a really big set of those companies coming in. Biro, Effectio, Argonox, Castle, Elite Crest, NetBeast, and Ready for Sky are all platform companies coming to help with this problem. And then finally, a couple of really interesting smart home companies we announced, Cosify and Evi Innovation, who do home automation systems.
Got it. Well, it sounds like you had a pretty big presence at CES. Can you talk about the presence as a whole and then what you're doing to build consumer awareness of AllJoyn?
Yeah, so the presence at CES was really meant to show two things. One, we have a space, 40 by 40 booths, so a really big space this year. And around the outside of that, we have members, and this is a way for members to both demonstrate their connection to the Alliance, but also to really come together to show how their products work together in an ecosystem. So we had a really wide-ranging group of companies from across the globe in the member area. And then the back half of the booth is all about use cases. So we've taken all of the products that we have and we've stitched them together into these incredible stories that really show what you can do with this. From Philips toothbrush that sends out ultra notifications to let mom and dad know when the kids have started brushing their teeth, whether they've stopped before they finished, and whether they've successfully finished. Why is that important? Because great, if you brush your teeth, I'm going to give you 15 more minutes on the Xbox. Even better, I'm just going to have the house give 15 more minutes on the Xbox. But I also want to make it fun for the kids, so I want to point the lights, right? We want to make this a game, and gamification of the home is a really big piece of that. And so this Philips toothbrush story is really, a really great example of the types of use cases that aren't the expected. It isn't just I have an app and I have a device. It's a group of devices working together in context. So we have 4 areas. We have this bathroom area. We have clean, fresh air, which is really the ultimate use case for in our homes. How do I get the environment I want? Honeywell and Heaven Fresh and LG all working together to deliver this clean, fresh air experience. We have a living room set up that puts a whole bunch of these devices in what would be our living rooms. And then we have a studio set up. And the studio is meant to be more of an apartment, kind of what you do in an apartment. Neat thing we have in the studio, we have the Electrolux has a new, really amazing smart connected oven that they announced at IFA. And we have that oven in the booth so that we can show how that oven interacts with the other things in your house to let you, not only cook, but also make that cooking experience more part of your life than just a buzzer running on a stove in another room. You can remote into this oven and look at your creme brulee while it's cooking. Your oven can notify you before the meal is done, so that you can check on it. So you can do that last 5 minutes without having to get up off the couch and walk across the house. That's convenient. Those are the stories that stitch around the booth that bring the members and the membership and what this technology means really to life.
Got it. Well, I want to circle back to, you talked about certification. In October 2015, you announced a certification program, and I believe there was an announcement about a lab in Europe with plans to open up a lab in the U.S. and Asia. Can you talk a little bit more about the certification program? And, I think about the Wi-Fi Alliance is based here in Austin, and they've got a certification program. So that there's a stamp on everything that says Wi-Fi on it. Can you compare and contrast, what is your certification program, and when will you have certification labs here in the U.S. and Asia?
So the certification lab in Asia is up and running, and I believe the U.S. one might already be up. It's right at the turn of the year. We were rapidly running to get that one up and going. I say we, it's the great folks at AT4, an international testing company who has been our partner in getting the labs launched. And we've run about 30 products through the labs now. So the labs have really, we've got the process down. We're really running on all cylinders. It's a nice, smooth, automated process. Again, it's all on the web because we're an open source project. You can go see how it all works right off of the All Seen Alliance website. Click on certification and be taken through the whole process. It's pretty straightforward. A manufacturer or an app developer takes their product or application, and they can do testing in their own office. You download the test tools, and you can do a self-test. That'll let you know that you've done what you think you do and your product works the way it's expected. Then you go out, you fill in your application. In the case of an app, you ship the app off. In the case of a product, you ship the product off to the test lab after you made an agreement with the test lab as to which one you're using, and they give you all the shipping instructions. They then take the product and test it and work with you, to get you through the end of certification. And then once you're certified, you get the right to wear the logo. You only get the right to wear the logo if you've been certified. We think this is important for consumers. It's the same, the Wi-Fi Alliance, the great folks at the Wi-Fi Alliance. We've spent a lot of time talking with them and learning from them. They've been doing this for a while. And some of us are old enough to remember the bad old days when there were different Wi-Fis and different cards and different networks, and you had different PCMCIA cards in your briefcase, depending whose office you were in at any given time. We don't think about that now. you go to you go to Staples or Walgreens, you buy a router, you bring it home, you plug it in, it magically works with all your stuff. And that's because it's got that logo on it, because somebody's tested it to ensure that it works. And we want that same level of consumer confidence. You asked how we're going to educate consumers. We're not. The All Seen Alliance is about enabling product companies and app companies to really deliver products to market. We have some amazing retailers, though. You know, Lowe's in the United States, Euronics in Europe, Howdens, who's a company that sells 400,000 kitchens a year in England, right? These are amazing retailers. They're going to educate consumers. They're going to tell consumers why this is important. And the reason they're going to do that is because they've been fighting for years with selling connected products and then having people bring them back saying, it doesn't do what I want. I can't make it work. The product A doesn't work with product B. How do I make that happen? They don't want to deal with that. They want to know that consumers are getting products that are going to work together so that they can deliver apps and services on top of it, because it's those apps and services that are really where they're going to make the next level of revenue and also bring value in with their customers. If I look at Lowe's and the new Lowe's Iris, you know, the new Lowe's Iris is phenomenal. And it's a great example of where we're heading. Lowe's has been at this for a long time, and they're veterans at delivering services to users. And that all you need to do is look at Lowe's Iris to know how, one, we're going to educate users. We're going to give them value propositions. We're not going to sell them gadgets. We're going to sell them solutions. Mm-hmm. And two, how you can present that in a way that you think, you know, as a retailer, brings value to your customers.
Got it. Well, let's wrap up by talking about your biggest, wildest 2016 prediction for IoT.
My biggest, wildest prediction for IoT. I'll tell you my prediction by telling you another past event and then using that as my prediction. There were some bad old days, and I used to work at a place called the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium. And in the bad old days, we surfed the web on HTML 3.2. And there wasn't one HTML 3.2, there were many. And you had to have the right browser on the right operating system at the right resolution to visit a web page. And web pages said, best when viewed with Netscape Navigator 800 by 600, 16-bit color. It was so confusing. And you had multiple browsers open. It was really a terrible experience. And then magically, all of those companies that thought they should be fighting about browsers stopped fighting about browsers and started fighting about content. And what that meant was they needed one web. That gave us HTML4, right? The warring parties came together and gave us HTML4. And the result was this magical web that we all have now, HTML5, we're continuing to advance. Whether you have a little tiny feature phone or a big, giant, beautiful Power Mac at your house or a smart TV, the web page just magically appears on there and it looks great. Well, so my prediction for 2016 is we're seeing convergence. It's happening all across this industry. You know, and convergence happens in different ways. It happens in partnerships. We're partnered with EnOcean, ULE, and it happens in acquisitions as groups come together and merge. I predict that 2016 is going to be the year where we really start to bring that together, and we stop having best one viewed with equivalence in IoT, and we start having a world where we're amplifying and building real value for users instead of fighting over my protocol is better than your protocol.
You mentioned acquisitions. Do you see a lot of consolidation in 2016? And if so, what type of consolidation?
The consolidation has to happen. It's inevitable, right? In every ecosystem, you have an ecosystem of one or an ecosystem of two. You know, we saw this with mail. Nobody sends a profs mail anymore. If you're an IBMer, you know what that is. Nobody messages you on CompuServe anymore. Right? That's all gone. We just send mail. And so that's a unified ecosystem. And in the mobile world, we ended up in a world where there's a buy ecosystem, right? We have iOS and Android, and that's it. That is the entire mobile ecosystem in the world effectively. And so, you know, when I look at 2016, we've gotten past all of the hurdles of how should this work? What are the problems we have to solve? We're now at the point of users, regular users, not techie users, not me, the nerd with a pocket protector and a screwdriver. but real users wanting this value in their homes and wanting things to work together. They want more than the connected camera. They want more than the connected lock. They want it all to work together. And so the consumers are forcing this. They're forcing it because they're telling the product companies, I don't want your connected product that doesn't work with something else. And the product companies are all coming together. And so that consolidation is inevitable. It's just a matter of whether we can all get it done or not quick enough.
Got it. That's there was an article recently about the fact that early adopters don't matter anymore. And the point being is technology moves so fast and you see mass adoption of these, and so maybe what you're saying is in IoT, you're going to see mass adoption next year. And people really start seeing the value of IoT.
Yeah, and what they're seeing the value of is a use case. Did somebody drop a package at my front door? That's an important use case. Did I, for the 8,000th time this year, leave the garage door open when I came home? Right? Yeah. Those are real use cases. Those are real problems. Is there a leak under the dishwasher because it's going to wreck my floor and ruin my basement? Those are real problems that people want solved, and they want them solved in a way that isn't bespoke and requires an engineer to show up to their house. And that's going to drive consolidation. It has to.
Well, Philip, thanks for your time today, and we wish you the best in 2016.
Thanks a lot. I had a really great time, and to you too. A wonderful 2016, and hopefully, one framework that we all live on.
Sounds great. Thank you.
IoT Innovation is a production of RCR TV. To find out more about IoT innovation and all things wireless, visit rcrwireless.com.